Can
Go
I
on,
actually jump?
Julian. I could
I
see
want to jump
Julian
ahead to
warming
something.
up.
I have a couple of thoughts actually on this. I'm just wondering if I jump ahead to my segment. Um, the irony of this is that Phoenix, I recently did Joe Rogan. It was a 3 hour interview. And Phoenix on Dave's team was producing the show, pulled a clip and sent it to me that he wanted to air during this. Phoenix, I was wondering, could you actually throw that up right now? I'm sure you probably don't have it queued up, but because it's coming up right now, it's
He's a pro.
extremely
He's a pro.
relevant.
Watch this. Watch this.
Okay.
Do you find that you fall victim to that sometimes? I see myself do it on occasion where you hear a narrative
Oh, yeah.
and I don't dig deeper on it. And I've been guilty of it a couple of times.
I apologized to Bobby Kennedy when he came here because I said I believed everything about you before I read your book. I thought you were this kook who doesn't believe in vaccines and he's an anti-science guy and a conspiracy theorist. And then I read the real Anthony Fauci. I was like, oh.
That's bananas.
I was talking about you. And what's interesting is that way back when Dave approached me about this idea and was like, I really love this idea and I love you and I love Sage and I love Russell. And I was like, oh gosh, Dave, I just don't know that I could work with Russell. I don't know. This is before you went through this recent slew of accusations. And Dave goes, Jillian, have you done any research into this? Have you looked into him? Have you ever met him? Have you spoken to him? And the answer was no. I had done none. Cut to just a few weeks later, I remembered seeing an article about you that all the accusations in that Channel 4 investigation, I wrote it down again, were fake. They found no evidence against you whatsoever. And I remember thinking, like, how have I done this? How have I judged this guy without ever doing any homework, without ever being presented any evidence? And I was really disappointed in myself. And the only reason that I didn't mention your name in that moment with Rogan, where he talked about Bobby Kennedy and how he had made the same jumps to conclusions about him and judged him without doing the work, is because I knew you were going through a lot and I didn't want to add to the chaos, but I was specifically referencing you. And so I found it very bizarre and potentially serendipitous that out of 3 hours, Phoenix sent that clip to talk about today. So listen, if you're a rapist, Russell, we probably won't talk again. I don't get that from you. You seem, in all my engagements with you, you have been transparent, authentic, kind, honest, and in the homework that I have done, there has been no evidence to this point that you have done any of these things you have been accused of. So that's what I have to say about it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you
Yeah.
very much. Thanks.
Can I add one thing on? First of all, when I got to meet you last fall, Russell, again, we all have our impressions from afar and from fame, etc. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what a kind human being. And all I can do, and I teach my kids to do, is, okay, yes, look at the noise, fine. How do they treat you? And to me, that really matters. From a, I guess, more business perspective, actually, one more personal thing. I have a very, very, very close family member who was accused of rape many, many years ago. And they were young, and it wasn't even close. It wasn't even close. It wasn't even, there wasn't even any physical interaction, and this young girl made something up. And it almost ruined this person's life. And I'll never forget how I felt trying to protect that person that I loved when we knew it was false. And eventually the truth came out pre-internet, right? That changed me in that moment to see how it can completely ruin someone's life and then some. And so I've always since then said, no, due process. We talk about this for illegals, right? No, due process, and let's allow the system to work before we automatically believe accusations. And then as a journalist at ESPN, and I don't know if you guys remember Matt Ariza, the Buffalo Bills punter, who was accused of raping a college girl.
Yeah.
And the NFL excoriated him, and he was cut by the Bills. I mean, so many things. And then it comes out she was lying again. So I just think most importantly, when we talk about the work that we're doing with these kind of situations, is to take a moment and remember, listen to both sides and don't automatically assume anything. And I think that is our duty as human beings, to live by that first. So God bless you. And you are in our prayers and my prayers, Russell.
Thank you very much. I mean, I suppose that what is important is there is a principle here, innocent until proven guilty. And what I try to do when I'm not personally involved is look at the sources of the information. I'm not talking about the nature of the complainants. I'm talking about the institutions and the media. That's what I'm talking about. It's a legal situation, so I have to be extremely
Yes.
careful, obviously, when I talk about it and to protect the rights of the people involved in this. And I take them very seriously. And as I've said before, I'm not interested in statute of limitations. If someone did something to one of my
No.
daughters 30 years ago, 40 years ago, I'd want justice. Justice is an important principle and can only happen when we believe in God, right, wrong, and we believe in the institutions that we entrust with the carriage of those principles. And I feel completely open and happy that I get the opportunity to talk about these matters in a court of law. My only concerns are, of course, the United Kingdom. How is it being run? And is there such a thing as lawfare? Are there examples of institutions of power being utilized in order to reach certain ends? I'm not being grandiose. We see it everywhere. Now, elsewhere in my segment, I was going to talk about Bonnie Blue, who's a British OnlyFans star, if that's the appropriate term, who's doing a tour of the UK. A dogging tour, as a matter of fact. And I mention this only in the context of it's a country that's also beset by a crisis when it comes to rape gang culture. One extraordinary term that is to use, where contemporaneously, many women have complained to the police in Britain that they have been abused and raped by gangs, and the UK have just refused to conduct an inquiry into those rapes, somewhat claiming it's due to fiscal reasons, that there aren't the resources available. So, yeah, but mine is a Crown case. So there are the resources available to pursue these 26-year-old allegations that are untrue, as I will say every time they ever come up. So what I'm saying is, look at the culture we're generating that trivializes sex, that denigrates
Yeah.
the relationships between men and women, that positions men and women continually in positions of opposing and conflicting positions. It's an interesting time in the UK. It's an interesting time for free speech. All of us have an individual and collective responsibility to ensure that our moral and judicial principles are virtuous and grounded in something other than our personal preferences. I know for a lot of people that don't like me, being able to upgrade from I don't like him to he's a rapist is a great upgrade. And I respect that and take the win. But there's such a thing as justice, there's such a thing as innocent till proven guilty, and there's such a thing as a corrupt, fallen nation in the hands of globalists, and maybe something even darker than globalism. And there's a lot of collateral damage in holy wars.